Professor Krillik's Tivari's multiple appendages trembled as she stared at the datapad, convinced there must be some kind of translation error. The prestigious Galactic Academy of Physical Education had sent her to observe Earth's educational practices, but surely this couldn't be right. I apologize, Principal Rodriguez, but this schedule indicates your students will be wrestling with Ursine megafauna? That can't possibly be correct. Sarah Rodriguez tried not to smirk as she watched the arachnid like aliens' optical sensors dilate in distress. After 5 years as principal of Montana's most unique high school, she'd gotten used to off-world visitors completely losing their composure when they learned about their alternative physical education program. Oh no, that's absolutely correct, Sarah replied cheerfully. Though we usually just call it Bear Wrestling 101 for short. It's one of our most popular electives, right after Advanced Wolfpack Tactics and Defensive Moose Evasion. The alien professor's chelicerae clicked rapidly, the xenobiological equivalent of hyperventilation. But that's completely insane. These are adolescent humans. You can't possibly let them engage with Class 4 predatory species. Would you prefer to observe our freshman orientation? That just involves some light parkour with mountain lions. Sarah's eyes twinkled with barely contained mirth. The bears are strictly for juniors and seniors. Light parkour with what? Don't worry, Professor Tivari. We haven't lost a student in, at least 3 months now. Sarah paused for dramatic effect. That was mostly because Jimmy tried to take a selfie with a wolverine. We specifically cover proper wildlife photography safety in semester 1. The alien educator's coloring had shifted to an alarming shade of pale green. This must violate countless safety regulations. The Galactic Educational Standards Committee would never. Oh, they approved our curriculum last year, Sarah interrupted, pulling up the official certification on her tablet. Though I admit there was some initial confusion when we submitted our insurance paperwork. Apparently most species don't consider death by annoyed moose as a standard liability category. But how? Why? Sarah's expression softened slightly. Professor, you've reviewed our planet's classification. Correct? We're a Class 12 death world. Our students need to learn how to coexist with the wildlife they'll encounter in their daily lives. Better to learn proper bear avoidance techniques in a controlled environment than figure it out the hard way during a camping trip. Controlled environment. The alien's voice had risen several octaves. Of course. All our animal participants are carefully selected and monitored. We have excellent relationships with local wildlife sanctuaries and rehabilitation centers. In fact, our star pupil this semester is making remarkable progress with anger management therapy for grizzlies. Just then, a distant roar echoed across the campus, followed by enthusiastic cheering and what sounded suspiciously like someone shouting "World Star." Sounds like Mr. Chen's advanced class is in session, Sarah noted. Would you like to observe? They're working on proper technique for redirecting charging bison today. Professor Tivari's response was cut short by the appearance of a lanky teenager who came sprinting around the corner, vaulting over a nearby bench with practiced ease. Hi, Principal Rodriguez, the student called out cheerfully as he ran past. Can't chat being chased by a mountain lion. Sure enough, moments later a sleek puma bounded into view, hot on the boy's heels. Jeremy, Sarah called out sternly. What have we said about proper predator evasion protocols? Sorry, the boy's voice echoed back as he expertly scaled a nearby tree. I know, maintain situational awareness and always have an escape route planned. I'm working on it. The mountain lion settled at the base of the tree, looking oddly pleased with itself as it began grooming its paws. That's Mittens, Sarah explained to the horror-struck alien professor, one of our regular teaching assistants. She's excellent with the freshman class, really helps motivate them to improve their climbing skills. Professor Tivari made a sound like a dying vacuum cleaner. Oh, don't worry about Jeremy, Sarah continued. He's one of our top students. Though his form could use some work, did you see how sloppy that vault was? We really emphasize proper parkour technique. Can't have students developing bad habits just because they're being pursued by apex predators. The alien educator had begun slowly edging toward the exit. I think I need to contact my supervisors before you go. Would you like to sit in on our afternoon session? The seniors are working on their final projects developing innovative solutions for peaceful conflict resolution with territorial grizzly bears. Last year's winning project involved interpretive dance and salmon-based negotiation techniques. Quite groundbreaking, really. Another distant roar echoed across campus, accompanied by the distinct sound of splintering wood. Although Sarah mused, based on that sound, it seems like today's meditation circle isn't going quite as planned. The bears can be a bit resistant to Zen philosophy sometimes. We're still working on that. Meditation circle Professor Tivari's voice had reached a pitch previously thought impossible for her species. Oh yes, we find it's important to address the emotional and spiritual aspects of human-wildlife interactions, not just the physical components. Though I admit, getting the bears to focus on their breathing exercises has been challenging. The alien professor had backed all the way to the door, appendages shaking violently. I think I have sufficient data for my report. Are you sure? The advanced class is about to start their unit on Wolverine psychology. It's fascinating stuff, really. Did you know that Wolverines respond surprisingly well to interpretive dance? Though we did have to modify the curriculum slightly after the incident with the jazz hands. But Professor Tevari was already gone, moving at a speed that would have impressed even the school's track team, who regularly practiced their sprints while being pursued by particularly motivated wolves. Sarah allowed herself a small chuckle as she watched the alien educator's hasty retreat. She really should feel bad about traumatizing yet another off-world observer, but honestly, their reactions never got old. Her amusement was interrupted by another student jogging past, this one wearing protective gear and carrying what appeared to be a large salmon. Principal Rodriguez. Quick question: if a bear starts critiquing your haiku during meditation circle, is that a fail or extra credit? Sarah sighed contentedly. Just another normal day at Earth's most unique educational institution. Meanwhile, in the school's specially designed wildlife interaction arena, which the students had unofficially dubbed the Thunderdome, Coach Marcus Iron Nerves Henderson was conducting his advanced class with his usual blend of enthusiasm and barely contained chaos. Remember, people, he bellowed as students gracefully dodged around various agitated megafauna. A charging bison can reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour. This is why we emphasize the importance of both cardiovascular fitness and creative problem-solving. A student raised her hand while casually sidestepping a particularly grumpy-looking buffalo. Coach Henderson, is it true that last year's class choreographed a flash mob to distract an entire herd? Excellent question, Jessica. Yes, that was one of our more innovative solutions. Though we did have to adjust the routine after discovering that bison are apparently not fans of contemporary hip-hop. They seem to prefer classical music, particularly Mozart. We're still conducting research on their opinions regarding jazz fusion. In the corner of the arena, a small group of students was engaged in what appeared to be an intense game of chess with a surprisingly attentive grizzly bear. The bear, wearing a name tag that identified him as Professor Pawsworth, appeared to be winning. Outstanding strategic thinking, Professor Pawsworth, Coach Henderson called out. Though please remember our discussion about good sportsmanship, no flipping the board when you're in check. The bear huffed what might have been agreement, carefully moving a knight with one massive paw. Another student came jogging up, looking slightly singed. Coach, quick question about the Wolverine diplomacy unit. Is it considered cheating if we bribe them with snacks? Excellent question, Tyler. While creative problem-solving is encouraged, we want to avoid creating dependent relationships. Remember the Great Raccoon incident of 2023? We're still finding hidden caches of stolen protein bars in the air ducts. The day continued in this fashion, a carefully orchestrated dance of chaos and education that would have given any normal school administrator an aneurysm. But then again, nothing about Earth's premier alternative wildlife integration academy could be considered normal by any standard, terrestrial or galactic. In the advanced meditation garden reinforced with military-grade barriers after several bears had shown an unexpected interest in Zen architecture, Dr. Elizabeth Whispers with Wolves Chen was conducting her famous cross-species conflict resolution class. Now remember, she instructed as students sat in a circle with an assortment of surprisingly calm predators. The key to successful meditation with apex predators is maintaining a balance between respect and assertiveness. Yes, Madison. Dr. Chen, is it true that you once talked down an entire wolf pack using only interpretive haiku? Ah, yes, though I should note that the wolves had some very constructive criticism regarding my syllable structure. They're surprisingly particular about proper poetic form. In the corner, a wolf who had been previously napping opened one eye and huffed what sounded suspiciously like agreement. The school's unique approach to physical education had started as a necessity. Living on a death world meant humans needed certain survival skills that couldn't be learned from traditional textbooks. But over the years, it had evolved into something far more interesting, a genuine attempt to bridge the gap between humanity and the dangerous yet fascinating wildlife they shared their world with. Of course, not everyone appreciated their methods. The school's insurance provider had nearly had a collective breakdown when they first submitted their curriculum for approval. The conversation had gone something like this. You want coverage for what? Standard student liability insurance. You know, the usual sprains, breaks, occasional mauling attempts, property damage from upset megafauna. This can't be legal. Oh, it is. We had our lawyers check. Apparently, there's nothing in the education code that specifically prohibits using bears as teaching assistants. Though we did have to create some new workplace benefits categories. You'd be surprised how much salmon-based compensation adds to the budget. The insurance company had eventually agreed, though they'd had to create an entirely new category of coverage called voluntary interaction with unnecessarily dangerous fauna. The paperwork alone had apparently caused 3 different actuaries to quit and move to less stressful careers, like bomb disposal. Back in the present, Sarah was reviewing the latest incident reports when her computer chimed with an incoming message from the Galactic Educational Standards Committee. Dear Principal Rodriguez, we have received Professor Tivari's preliminary report regarding your institution's physical education program. While we appreciate Earth's unique environmental challenges, we feel compelled to point out that most civilized species consider wrestling with apex predators to be less of an educational activity and more of a concerning cry for help. However, given your species' inexplicable survival rates and the undeniably impressive results of your program, we note that your graduates have a 0% mortality rate from wildlife encounters, which is statistically improbable. We are tentatively maintaining your accreditation. We would, however, appreciate it if you could please stop sending us videos of your senior class's interpretive dance with bears recital. Our psychological support staff is already overworked. Regards. The clearly too understanding Galactic Education Board. Sarah chuckled as she filed the message away. She'd have to remember to send them the footage from next week's Advanced Moose Diplomacy Final. The students had been working on a particularly ambitious performance piece involving synchronized swimming and orchestral arrangements of moose calls. As she looked out her window at the organized chaos of her campus students practicing parkour over carefully placed obstacles while being enthusiastically encouraged by various predators, a meditation circle where wolves and teenagers alike were critiquing each other's haiku, and what appeared to be a very serious game of chess between a bear and the school's mathematics department, she couldn't help but smile. Yes, their methods might be unconventional. Yes, they might occasionally cause visiting alien educators to question their career choices. And yes, they might be single-handedly responsible for forcing the creation of entirely new categories of insurance coverage. But in the end, they were achieving something remarkable, teaching young humans not just how to survive on their death world, but how to truly understand and coexist with it. Even if that understanding occasionally involved learning proper technique for redirecting charging bison through interpretive dance. Besides, she thought as she watched a student successfully negotiate a treaty with a particularly stubborn wolverine using nothing but synchronized gymnastics and carefully rationed snacks. At least their parent-teacher conferences were never boring. Though she did have to remember to stock up on anxiety medication for the next time they hosted alien observers, and maybe invest in some stronger-smelling salts. Just in case. Later that afternoon, Sarah found herself hosting yet another alien observer this time. A rather pompous representative from the Galactic Sports Federation named Ambassador Quilxor III, whose crystalline form sparkled with barely contained indignation as he witnessed the school's unique take on track and field events. What in the name of the void are those, he demanded, his crystalline structure vibrating with alarm as he pointed at the school's running track. Oh, those are our hurdles, Sarah replied casually. Though I suppose mobile predatory obstacles would be more accurate. The mountain lions really help motivate our sprinters to maintain proper form. The felines appear to be attempting to catch the students. Well, yes, that's rather the point. Nothing improves your 100-meter dash time quite like proper motivation. Sarah checked her tablet. Actually, we're seeing a 23% improvement in average sprint speeds compared to traditional methods, though we did have to implement a strict no laser pointers policy after some students tried to get creative with distractions. A student zoomed past them, clearing a hurdle with perfect form while a mountain lion sailed gracefully through the air behind them. New personal best, Emily, Coach Henderson shouted from the sidelines. Though watch that landing, remember what we said about unnecessary flourishes. Sorry, Coach, the student called back, executing a perfect roll as she dodged another pouncing feline. I've been working on incorporating some of the techniques from advanced freestyle predator evasion. The ambassador's crystalline form was now vibrating at a frequency that threatened to shatter nearby windows. This is not what the Galactic Sports Federation considers proper athletic training. Oh, I don't know, Sarah mused. Our students consistently rank first in galactic competitions, though we did have to modify some events after that incident at the Interspecies Olympics. You mean the incident where your cross-country team outran a Centaurian speed beast while being pursued by what appeared to be a pack of highly motivated wolves? Those wolves were our certified training assistants, Sarah protested. They even had official uniforms. Though I admit, the Team Earth jerseys may have been a bit much. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the school's PA system. Attention students. Today's advanced aquatic evasion class will be temporarily relocated due to unexpected beaver engineering activities in the school pool. Please report to the auxiliary facility and remember to bring your approved water-resistant predator deterrent equipment. And no, Trevor, your interpretive underwater ballet routine is not an approved deterrent, no matter how impressed the otters were last time. The ambassador's crystalline structure was now emitting a high-pitched whine. You allow aquatic predators in your swimming facilities. Of course. Though after the Great Otter Incident of 2023, we had to implement stricter regulations about synchronized swimming performances. Turns out otters can be quite critical of non-traditional choreography. A student hurried past, dripping wet and looking slightly frazzled. Principal Rodriguez. Quick question: if a beaver critiques your swimming form, does that count as extra credit in marine biology? Only if you can document their feedback in proper scientific format, Jessica Sarah called after her. And remember what we said about respecting their architectural criticism. The ambassador was now vibrating at a frequency that threatened to resonate with the building's foundation. This cannot possibly comply with standard safety protocols. Oh, you'd be surprised, Sarah replied cheerfully. We actually had to create entirely new safety protocols. The original ones didn't account for situations like proper procedure for interrupting a bear's meditation session or appropriate response to wolves critiquing student poetry. Just then, the school's intercom crackled to life again. Attention faculty, Professor Posworth has once again demanded a rematch in the chess tournament. Please note that flipping the board is still considered a forfeit, regardless of species. Also, the Drama Club would like to remind everyone that next week's production of Romeo and Juliet will feature guest performances by our resident wolf pack. Apparently, they have strong opinions about the balcony scene. The ambassador's crystal structure had taken on a concerning shade of puce. Your drama department collaborates with apex predators. Oh yes, they're surprisingly good actors. Though we did have to modify some of the fight scenes after the wolves insisted on more realistic choreography. And don't get me started on their opinions regarding Shakespeare's use of iambic pentameter. As if on cue, a distant howl echoed across campus, followed by what sounded suspiciously like someone reciting a soliloquy. That'll be Mr. Hawthorne's advanced literature class, Sarah explained. They're working on cross-species literary criticism this semester. Though I have to admit, the wolves make some surprisingly insightful points about metaphor usage. Before the ambassador could respond or possibly shatter from sheer disbelief, a student came sprinting around the corner, clutching what appeared to be a heavily annotated copy of Hamlet. Principal Rodriguez. The wolves have some pretty strong opinions about the ghost scene. Also, they've suggested some revisions to the duel choreography. Just remember the new guidelines about dramatic interpretation, Sarah called after him. We don't need a repeat of the Macbeth incident. The ambassador had begun emitting a high-frequency hum that was causing nearby windows to vibrate. I believe I have seen enough for my report. Are you sure? The advanced class is about to start their unit on interpretive dance as a conflict resolution strategy with territorial herbivores last week. They successfully negotiated a peace treaty with an entire herd of moose using nothing but contemporary ballet and carefully timed jazz hands. But the ambassador had already begun rapidly vibrating toward the exit, leaving behind a trail of tiny crystal fragments. Sarah sighed contentedly as she watched another alien official beat a hasty retreat from her campus. She really should feel bad about causing so many interstellar incidents, but somehow she couldn't bring herself to regret their unique educational approach. After all, where else in the galaxy could you find a school where students learned calculus from chess-playing bears, poetry from literary-minded wolves, and proper evasive maneuvers from highly motivated mountain lions? Besides, she thought as she watched a student successfully demonstrate a complex mathematical theorem to a surprisingly attentive grizzly bear, At least their school board meetings were never boring, though they did have to implement a strict no salmon-based bribes policy after several bears attempted to influence the curriculum committee. Just another day at Earth's most unique educational institution, where the line between predator and professor was often delightfully blurred, and where survival of the fittest had less to do with natural selection and more to do with properly executing a pirouette while being critiqued by a particularly judgmental wolf pack. Sarah made a mental note to update their school brochure. Perhaps it was time to add a new slogan where every day is an adventure in interspecies education, and the worst grade you can get is partially mauled. Though she might need to run that one by the PR department first, and maybe stock up on more smelling salts for the next round of alien observers, just in case. After all, tomorrow was another day of educational chaos, and she had a feeling the wolves' dramatic reading of A Midsummer Night's Dream was going to raise some interesting questions about proper theatrical interpretation across species barriers. But that was a problem for another day. Right now she had to go mediate a philosophical debate between a particularly enlightened grizzly bear and the school's physics department about the nature of quantum mechanics, who said education had to be boring